Esports. Rookhill, let's talk about these two teams.
Go for it. Tell me their stories.
Googly Bobbers versus Bernal Empires. First off, Go Bob went all 5 battles against Hammer Time, and then they lost. Before the match started, Spoon declared that they were going to bring their A game. They have 1 win against the Cunninghams from week 2. If they win tonight, they rise to 6th place. If they lose, they stay at 7th place. Let's talk about their opponents, Bernal Empires. Bernal Empires are sitting real pretty right now at 2nd place. A win last week against Refuse to Die and a blow-for-blow slugfest was quite impressive. If Bernal Empires wins tonight, they stay at 2nd place. If they lose, they fall to 3rd place, potentially. They're in a good spot. They want to keep that spot, and they're going to have to bring their A game tonight. And I look forward to talking to the 2 team representatives joining us in the face-off. But before we get into that, Rookhill, I want to talk a little bit about the rise of a team that we lost previously. And this is a story that's repeated itself time and time again. Refuse to Die, Bernal Empires, out of the season, back in the season, and then even with River of Blood barely making it through the 2 season finals in season 1 and 2, and then season 3 not making it. So this is a big night for that. For them tonight as well.
This shows how far they've come. It shows that even though they were out for a little while, they don't need to be here every season to be one of the best teams in our league. They had a little bit of a downtime, but they're back. They're doing great.
They are back. And now the team representatives are ready on our face-off. Gentlemen, good evening. Googly Bobbers, let's start with you. You were able to defend that East push from Hammer Time. But what happened on the other maps?
Ruinberg was that was simply we just didn't have enough time. I think we were under 5 seconds away from capping. So that was just not pushing 5 seconds fast enough. The last match on Ensk, that was more of we just didn't have enough time, and we kind of lost Anfield early, so we couldn't really make a strong push with only 1 IS3. And that's pretty much what happened. They're all pretty close matches, though.
That they were. Let's check in with Bernal Empires. 2nd place, 2 matches away from your spot in the playoffs. Is there more tension now than before?
There is. It's a little scary because we are 2nd place, and we can control our own destiny at this point. So we still got 2 tough matches until the playoffs. So we just need to step up our game and keep going strong, and hopefully at least get a decent seed.
G-Forcer, any words for your opponents before we begin this match?
Nope, just good luck, have fun, have a lot of fun tonight.
Spoon, any words?
Good luck to you too.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. Best of luck. We'll see you on the battlefield.
Thank you.
Tension is high between both teams. You can see it with
I felt
the team
like G-Forcer
representatives.
was a little bit cranky. I don't know if that's the word for it.
Well, it's a tough spot to be in at 2nd place in a sense of so much. The stakes are higher. It's a different type of pressure when you have to fight your way back. You're up against the ropes, but when you have to maintain your position, you have all those bullseyes on your back.
Yeah,
and that's a different type of stress. Take a look at the rosters for both these teams. The red shirts are no more, meaning that any roster changes that have occurred, those new team members can play tonight. On the side of Googly Bobbers, though, I'm definitely going to watch Zombie Food if he does show up tonight to see how he performs.
Yeah, I'm definitely paying attention to Crisis from Googly Bobbers, a new member, along with Tarho and Urtai for Bernal Empires. I've played with Urtai before, and for Tarho, we all know him from Simple Tankers. He's an exceptional player, but unfortunately in the previous seasons he wasn't actually starting. So now we get to maybe see him start in a match, see if he can really perform for Bernal Empires. They've already been doing well. Maybe they can do a little bit better with some other players, new skills, new perspectives even.
Some new blood mixing with the old blood creates a foundation that builds dynasties. That does it for the individuals. Rookhill, why don't you go ahead and break down for us what are rules for victory for these teams?
All right, well, rule number 1 will be matched aggression. Both of these teams are known for their aggression and how much they love to set the tempo. They're going to have to fight for that. They're going to have to fight for their control of the map and their control of the entire series, as it will be in a constant flux. Rule number 2 will be tempo control. That is the key to victory. whichever team forces their opponent into a reactive stance to react to their strategies, to their moves, will have the ability to dictate what happens, when it happens, and where it happens. Unless they can pull something crazy, I expect the aggressor to win here and the controller of tempo. Finally, misinformation. The team which can perhaps misguide their opponent, this comes into play with tempo control. The team that can place a tank in an odd position, but, you know, not really actually have the lineup behind it, maybe place some tanks, be highly mobile, make your opponent think you're doing something, but you're actually doing something else. That may come into play, especially if Googly Bobbers or Bernal Empires can pull a fast one on their opponents. That can win them a battle or two.
Misinformation. I like that rule.
Think so?
Yeah, it's effective because that's the type of play that we saw from Victoria's Secret.
Yes.
Where the misinformation on Ruinberg, when they went up the one line, fired across towards the flag cap to the north, then fell back because they knew their opponents would move to a defensive position to the north. They had the entire south and east open for them. They went all the way up, started the engagement, and then won the battle.
Yes.
That type of misinformation, I like to see more of that from some of these teams.
It's a difficult thing to pull off, especially in World of Tanks.
Yeah, it's timing. You have to do it early on because if you do it too late, by the time you're halfway across the map, it's 1 minute. It's not enough time to cap or start an engagement.
Along with that, a smart opponent will read that and be able to tell what you're going for.
Here we go. Battle number 1 of the first match of the night. Googly Bobbers versus Bernal Empires. Rookhill, what do we have for tanks?
Check this out. 5 AMX 1390s, 2 T1 Cunninghams for the Googly Bobbers.
Wow.
Bernal Empires is going to bring a T32, Pershing T69, 2 1390s. And check this out, 2 Lowell tractors. So they're bringing the German Tier 1. I think they're planning on a fight. And for the 1390s, you've actually got this incredibly mobile lineup. Googly Bobbers are expecting to try and play that highly mobile game, set the tempo and set the pace. It could also end up being a blitz in an attempt to catch these tanks off guard, take advantage of the consistent fire to burst something down. But to start off the battle, it looks like Spoon's going to go for an opening scout run, Tuxzilla mirroring that, and they will spot a few tanks, G4s or Servios in Zone Delta, but I don't think anyone's discovered Zombie Food, who is on his way down the one line, completely unspotted at this point, and this could catch Bernal Empires by surprise in battle number 1 and just set the tempo, the pace for the entire battle.
Which take do they focus first with their 1390s? The T69s or the other 1390s?
I'm a fan of maybe the T69 or the Pershing. Other 1390s if they become available, but the T32 is going to absorb a little bit too much damage. Let's leave that one alone for now.
Yeah.
Let's go for the T69. Great damage dealer and also pretty effective against 1390s. And then that Pershing, little less health than the T32, but puts out about the same amount of damage.
That's what we saw, I believe, from Simple Tankers, focusing too much on the T32s of their opponents from last night in the Alpha Division.
It's one of the key uses of the T32, the fact that it can do things like that. Just take so much damage to the point where your allies can be enabled in the fact that your opponents are now out of shells or don't have enough firepower. Servios is taking damage, that Pershing being the first tank targeted down, but G-Forcer is also taking a little fire in the T32. I think we might see Googly Bobbers just try and put out a little damage here and then try and work from that.
Well, then some significant damage. Servios gets tracked. He's looking around, seeing where it came from. Zombie Food might have got that scout shot from long range. He's currently reloading.
Looks like Danksta is going to be firing on Servios. One more shot, does not connect. It's quite a bit of distance for a tank like a 1390 to be firing. It does not have the best accuracy, and of course, they're not exactly in a great hold-down position, even if that would be effective. These 1390s have taken a peppering of damage. Spoon and Danksta are hit a little bit, making this trade, while favorable, not ideal. And now he looks like the counter push coming from the Googly Bobbers. Looks like G-Forcer in the T32 is going to be focused.
Zone Delta aiming down towards Zombie Food. Zombie is able to leave, and Danksta falls first, but Servios falls next, trading up between the Tier 8s.
And now 2 Tier 8s are down for the Googly Bobbers. Bernal Empires has the momentum. G-Forcer must go down. He is so low, and there he goes. That makes the trade favorable a little bit for the Googly Bobbers, but Tuxzilla is very low, 1 hit away from death.
But at what cost? At what cost? Armor Ghost falls, Tuxzilla so close, Zone Delta reloaded, ready to go. 3 shots left as he's going to chase down Anfield, who is still not at 50% reload time yet.
He's just peeked over it, and now we've got 2 1390s at decent amounts of health versus a T69, two 1390s, and two lull tractors. Those lull tractors are actually very dangerous right now because of the guns they mount have actual penetration which is sufficient to consistently pen the thin armor of a 1390. And now one hit onto Enfield. He's starting to juke around, make himself a harder target, but still some shells are landing. He's taking another 200 damage. Spoon is covering him, but Enfield is probably not going to be making it out, especially on this uphill. No, he might. Yes.
He makes it. Barely makes it.
Amazing. Okay.
He was still spotted by Azrael, but he couldn't get the shot.
I'm very surprised. When you're going up on an uphill, like Enfield had to in order to escape, it's one of the easiest shots to take. And so I would have expected someone from Bernal Empires to be waiting for that perfect shot, but it must have caught them just off guard enough.
I'm sure Anfield held his breath when he went up over the train tracks on that road.
Oh, definitely.
Zone Delta's doing the same thing. Who does he spot first?
It looks
Sovereign.
Like Sovereign has
the
proxied
T1,
with him.
and he's gone.
But now Spoon is looking south at Zone Delta. Maybe able to get a little damage out there. Enfield trying to snipe, but it looks like there's some failed connections onto Enfield. One final shell and does get Enfield.
Spoon last alive, low health. 5 tanks still remain for Bernal Empires, and they get the kill and the win for battle number 1 on Prohorovka. 5 1390s did not work for the spread of tanks from Bernal Empires. That T-32 absorbing a lot of damage, forcing those 1390s to reload, to not have the shells necessary to counter out the T-69s.
On top of that, I think they were too static. There was not enough mobility out of the 1390s. They could have played a more aloof game, if you catch my drift, where they're trying to be more... They use that mobility, they use their camo, and they use distance to their advantage. If you stick around 350 plus and you try and get some spotting in there where you're going to be far away in a bush, sitting still firing from, and there's nothing anywhere near you, you can stay completely cloaked as a 1390. Very hard to deal with that when you can't even see where the damage is coming from.
Nigh impossible to deal with it when you can't see where the damage is coming from, but those 1390s, would a southern approach, more of a southern sweep, been more effective? I think at least one of the 1390s trying to swing all the way south. If anything, break some turrets that are focused on the main force of Googly Bobbers. You have the speed, use it, but it just was not used effectively. And that's tough too, because once you start an engagement, you want to trade blows. You don't want to take too much damage as you're trying to flee into the first step of your plan, because you have to be flexible with any type of strategy you bring. Especially on Prohorovka, a map that is completely open, except for train tracks in a village on the east. It's hardly ever used. The village, at least.
And it's an open map. It's one of the most open we have, aside from maybe steppes. But like you said, if we'd seen a little bit more of that southern push, I think we could have seen an effective strategy. Could have worked, and we would have seen perhaps a little more damage go out in favor of the Googly Bobbers. I think because they sat still and they did not retreat, they did not give ground, that they found themselves in that tough position. It was a smart counter push, though, by Bernal Empires, recognizing that their opponent was, for the most part, on reload. No one had enough shells, really, to finish off most of those tanks easily. There were going to be bounces against a T-32 and a Pershing and a T-69. It was a good reaction. It was a smart play, and they recognized the weakness. There's a weakness in timing when you bring all autoloaders. There's a small lull in your ability to deal damage.
Yep. And that's why the mix-up is crucial and favored by most teams for most occasions. Abbey will be battle number 2 between these two teams. Spawning to the south, as I check real quick, will be Googly Bobbers. Bernal Empires will be to the north. So they could play defensive here on Abbey, but I feel that Bernal Empires maybe took a page out of last night's book of the Alpha Division, where we saw some very intriguing play in the center of Abbey between two teams. It's also dependent upon which tanks they pick. So Rukil, go ahead and tell us, what tanks do we have?
We have a very strange lineup, guys. 1 5100, 3 IS-3s, a 1390, and 2 T1 Cunninghams for Go Bob. For the side of Bernal Empires, we have 2 AMX 5100s, a T69, and 2 1390s, along with, of course, 2 T1 Cunninghams this side, abandoning those low tractors for this battle.
3 IS-3s on Abbey.
That is a very heavy strat, very alpha-based. And with the lineup from Bernal Empires, this could be effective if they catch any of those autoloaders out of position.
Well, if there's a brawl that's going to happen, the most ideal place for a brawl is in the center of the Abbey itself because of the different avenues. But still, it's a very tight entrance on the main roads.
Yes.
There's not much maneuverability compared to Himmelsdorf, compared to Ensk, where you have more cover and more options.
I think the hills, the terrain in the Abbey might also not suit the IS-3s ideally. They'll find themselves in awkward positions when they try to get to that mutual point. And for that, I think their choice to go to the west is rather sound. So, those IS-3s will be heading out. It looks like we've got Spoon, Dangsta heading to the east, and T1 Armago staying behind. Which this four tier 8 hit squad should be enough to deal with just about anything Bernal Empires brings. It could even take on the autoloaders if they can get their shots right and they can begin the engagement properly.
G-Forcer is actively scouting in the center of the map. He was spotted for a couple seconds. Zone Delta is now lit up for Googly Bobbers.
I think that's by Dangsta.
He's going to fall back.
Must be. He's in a nice... I love this spot on top of the mountain. Dangsta really knows this map well enough. He's able to get himself into a high position where he can spot numerous tanks, not get spotted himself. Very effective, and this could actually help Googly Bobbers get into the proper position, get their crossfires, and maybe pick off a T8.
SPM Hawk is able to spot one of the tanks, Zombie Food, pushing up, scouting ahead. Doesn't see the rest of the Googly Bobbers yet, but they're staying together. Zombie Food shoots and misses on the run.
One more shot.
And he gets it. SPM Hawk crashes in a fiery blaze of death.
And it looks like Zombie Food's going to opt to reload, which is a smart move. Hopefully there's no engagement coming. And this could prompt a reaction from Bernal Empires. I do see a little movement here and there.
Yeah, they are condensing the spread that they had earlier with two of their tanks. On the eastern side, Zone Delta falls away from the Abbey, and now he's actually going to push down south, checking for spotting. Dangsta is spotted.
He's going to relight Static, I think. No, he's going to avoid getting lit by Static. Smart move. Static will be... Oh! Servios takes him down.
There goes Dangsta. So they trade out the T1s.
But Azrael's taken some damage. That's from the middle. Kreis is able to get a nice hit onto that 1390. So a little bit of a trade here. With the distraction of the T1 Dangsta, they're able to take out, of course, that T1, but in exchange, you've got a little damage onto a 1390. And now we've actually got Spoon playing a very aggressive scout, taking control of the enemy's cap. Bernal Empires is going to have to find the proper crossfire and be able to defend this.
Static takes down Armor Ghost. Both T1s down for Googly Bobbers now.
And we might be seeing a cap fast. Spoon spots Servios. 1390 versus 5100, not an ideal fight, but now it might be. Servios has taken one hit where Spoon has not. And it's that uphill shot. When you're firing uphill, your opponent has a little bit of cover, and it's just a little bit harder to get the shot to connect, especially with the nice front plate on 1390. You could actually reasonably bounce, even with gold shells.
6 minutes, 18 seconds. Plenty of time for either team to make a move, and Googly Bobbers is making that move now on top of Bernal Empire's hill.
And it looks like Crisis is going to get spot crossing, Zombie Food as well, and now Sovereign Zool. Maybe a little damage coming out. Doesn't look like it, actually. Very odd.
There's the indicator. There's the trigger.
And now Spoon, I think, is going to have to race back to cap, going perhaps through the east. No, he's just going to go right at... Oh, surprise, Servios is still there. Makes the shot on the move, and his track is the only thing to take damage. Finally one goes into him.
Servios and Zone Delta are the ones labeling. Trying to snipe.
Beautiful play. Static is going to hold off Spoon as best he can. Should be able to finish him at least.
Oh, misses a shot.
Jukes. What are these jukes?
Lands another hit against Spoon. Spoon still on the run. One shot away. Static turns his turret. Does not get the kill. One more shot. Spoon will fall. Static does get it. But now he has only one shell left, meaning he is almost out of the fight by the time he gets up there. He could start reloading now. But looking at the time, 11 seconds, 10 seconds for Go Bob.
And who's going to get the reset?
The flag cap victory. G-Force are working on it. One reset happens.
He's going to peek up, and there's one. Sovereign Zool and Crisis take hits. Recap is reset. They are losing tanks, and no one is actually going to be able to go back to stop Bernal Empires from capping. Spoon is down. Zombie Food. Not going to be able to do it.
21 seconds left for that 1T1
and
to win this battle for Bernal Empires. Zone Delta waiting for the reload. Sovereign Zool takes a shot from long range, and Azrael 90 hit, and a volley of 430 damage falls back in the center of the map. 8 seconds left for the T1 to get it. All Bernal Empires has to do is keep that T1 alive. Googly Bobbers cannot send any tanks in that position. 1 second left, base captured. Bernal Empires is now up 2-0 with a flag cap on Abbey. In an answer to the aggression coming out of the Googly Bobbers to the north, both teams had good strategies. In the end, it was taking out Spoon. Static's placement in that 1390 that was so crucial. They got the victory. Very well played coming out of Bernal Empires. This is why they're the second place team this season.
Yeah, I think it may have been an over-aggressive stance to take from Spoon. He was able to zone out one of the enemy tanks. However, he was not in a position to safely go through his own claimed territory to get back. And this is great. Static recognizing where Spoon was. He is the tank that will stop Cap. We just need to win this by Cap. They have too much health. They have too much damage. Let's just reset a little bit here. And then I'll take down Spoon. It's going to be a win. It'll take us all of 100 seconds, but it's worth it.
Totally worth it. Totally worth it. Taking a look at the team score. Zone Delta, 7 for 10 in the 5100. Servios knocked out 5 for 7. Still was able to do over 1,000 damage. Static, 6 for 8 in the 1390. Those 2 shots that missed were against Spoon.
Now, I want to point out something about Googly Bobbers. You have Enfield and Crisis. All 4 of their shells connect. All 4 of their shells penetrate. 2 IS-3s doing an exceptional job in this battle. Unfortunately, just not able to do enough. If there had not been Cap, I think you would have seen a victory from the Googly Bobbers. But unfortunately, because there was that other objective, they just didn't account for it, and because of that, that's how Bernal Empires wins this one.
Next battle will take place on Mines. Most likely won't see any IS-3s on Mines. However, can't count it out, especially when top tier brings IS-6s. And Hammer Time even used 2 IS-6s, or was it 3? It was more than 1. That's what I remember. I'll have to check my notes later.
Absolutely crazy stuff. We could see the comeback of the IS-6, but we could also probably see some WZ-132s. It seems like the style of Go Bob.
Yes. I don't think we'll see any Team Bisons, though.
No.
No Team Bisons. No Artie on this map. But back in the day, it was fun to see the Bison used on Mines.
It's over a year ago.
Yes, it was.
It's well over a year ago.
Yes, it was. WZ-132s, the traverse speed is faster than the 1390s. It's loaded faster than the 1390s.
Consistent fire tank as opposed to an autoloader.
More accurate on the move?
Depends on the gun. The 100 mil, little bit around the same as the 1390, but the 85 definitely more accurate.
Yeah, and you prefer the 85 over the
It's a hard choice. If I get to choose my map, I will choose the gun based on that, but 100 mil usually, because it's more consistent with the APCR as opposed to the heat pen from the 85, but we can talk more about that later.
That's right. Let's see how the tanks are going to perform as we move into battle number 3 between Bernal Empires and Googly Bobbers. What do we have for tanks?
For tanks, we've got an IS-3, 2 T-32s, 2 WZ-132s, and 2 T-1 Cunninghams for Go Bob. For Bernal Empires, we've got an AMX-5100, T-32, 2 T-69s, a WZ-132, and 2 T-1 Cunninghams. So I'm expecting there to be a little bit of a hill contention, or at least from the Googly Bobbers. Bernal Empires might have to give it up.
That'll be the main point of contention probably coming out of Bernal Empires here. Static leading the charge than WZ-132.
And then for Googly Bobbers, we actually have an interesting choice. The 85 on Tuxzilla, so more damage per minute.
Ooh, nice shot from Static. He dodges one blow, but gets hit for another one.
Spoon making a nice shot on the move with 100 mil on his WZ-132. The two of them should complement each other actually really well.
Azrael, now on the T-69, is going to scout ahead a little bit and see if the danger is close from the Googly Bobbers. Crisis is set up into a position to try to scout any water side play. Azrael takes a hit, so does G-Forcer. That whittles down a little bit of the HP. Bernal Empires is not going to want to play this defensive right now. They're ready and waiting for Googly Bobbers to come to them. Up 2-0 and a best of 5 in battle number 3. They can play for 2 draws and get the win. Side of Bernal Empires. A couple shots on the retreat. Servios takes a hit for 322. And he's going to swing around, scout out what's happening a bit in the east side.
So Googly Bobbers definitely has control now. And because of that, you're going to see Bernal Empires have to rethink their strategy and their approach to the map. And now that we've got this high ground control going to the Googly Bobbers, 2 WZ-132s up there who can just put out free damage when they want to and not have to worry about long reloads. Along with that, you've got those T-32s, which are pushing on over. Sovereign Zul and Zombie Food taking beautiful position. Zombie's going to be able to get on top of the hill. A perfect position for a T-32. Sovereign Zul will probably join him. And with that, they will actually probably leave Enfield behind to watch the entrance.
2 tanks holding the line right now as you see the lighthouse in the distance. It's Azrael and G-Forcer. 2 American tanks, a T-69 and that beautiful T-32.
Shots going out onto Zone Delta in the 5100. Zombie Food backs off, not taking any damage, by the way. And then Sovereign Zul will try and maybe pinch that position with, I think, Anfield over in Echo 4-5. That rock where tanks go to die. And this will actually be a lot of control for the Googly Bobbers. They can begin doing stuff with their WZ-132s, moving up their T1 Cunninghams, and trying to just pinch out control. In the meantime, Tuxzilla is moving up in that WZ to take out maybe a T1 or get some free damage here and there.
G-Forcer fires blind shots towards a bush next to the lighthouse. No connections.
There's nothing there. We've got proxy spotting from the hill, and we're going to have flank fire from Tuxzilla. Just trying to get a little free damage for the Googly Bobbers. They're just trying to play it safe, see where they can get leads for free. And now Armor Ghost can actually back off. I'm waiting for them to really use their WZ-132 and T1s a little bit more aggressively, but I think they're just going to take what they can for free right now. What's Bernal Empires going to actually be able to do to counter this? I think because they spotted that WZ, they're going to try and make a mid-push, but that might not work out as Zone Delta and Static are still kind of far in the back.
Zombie takes that SPM Hawk, first tank to fall.
T1, nice pickup.
More movement happening in the center. Zombie Food still up top. Possible Goomba coming from his tank. He's looking. He's looking. He sees Static. Can the gun depression work? He shoots and misses, but they know Zombie Food is not in the mix. They could push up against him. G-Forcer gets shot twice from long range from Spoon in the water side, in the south.
And now Enfield is going to get ripped up by the medium tanks of Bernal Empires, trying to just counter it out. And then Tuxzilla goes down. A well-executed push. They will trade out Tuxzilla. They will trade out G-Forcer for that, though. And now they are pretty peppered. These T-32s might be able to bring it back. So could Spoon. It depends on a heck of a lot of play, though, from individual players from this point on.
Bernal Empires recognize that 2 tanks would not be on the higher ground. They decided to push. They traded.
And now the cap. It looks like things have turned. Where Bernal Empires was able to put the cap pressure on last battle, this battle, Googly Bobbers will. And they should be able to cover that T1 and make Bernal Empires pay for attempting to take that position. However, Zone Delta could prove to be a big problem for the Googly Bobbers and their ability to defend the cap.
All 3 of those fast-moving tanks, Static, WZ-132, and the 2 T-69s, Azrael and Servios, moving as fast as they can. Static's overtaking them. You can see the speed of the WZ-132 in action here.
Now Armor Ghost will be taken out. Spoon is going to be incredibly close, and Zone Delta is rolling up behind, zeroing his shot.
And here comes Spoon around the corner. He was ready. Azrael lands 1 hit, gets another one. He wants revenge. Look at the T1 doing some damage. 88 hit points against Azrael. Gets hit by Spoon. And there's so many tanks still left alive for the Googly Bobbers. Again, more shots. 134 damage in that volley.
Wow, incredible.
That's why you don't leave Armor Ghost alive.
I thought they would have taken him out, and now just under the hill, Zombie Food finishes off Zone Delta. It's going to be a cleanup time for the Googly Bobbers.
Armor Ghost unable to penetrate. Now Crisis tries to get from behind. And there's another volley for 69 damage. Spoon is low, and he gets the kill against Azrael.
2 hit points left on Spoon.
Googly Bobbers take battle number 3. They put a point on the board, and they show that this is going to be a match, not a blowout. I want to take a look at the damage being done by the T1s. Crisis, 106 damage. Not Tuxzilla. Wow, look at this. A T1 did more damage than Tuxzilla, than the WZ-132. He only did 188.
Wow.
Armor Ghost, 222.
Poor Tuxzilla. I think it was the 85 that he was bringing on that tank. Just the heat shells probably fizzled every time he was trying to get a connection, or he just couldn't connect. Let's see. Times fired. Oh, he only got to fire twice. That's it. He fired once trying to go up to the hill. It missed, understandably. not great gun depression on the WZ-132, and combined with an uphill, going to have a little bit of a problem trying to settle your gun on a target. With that, his one connection was the other shot he fired.
Yeah.
Just didn't get a chance to really prove his worth. So I take back my statement about the 85 really hurting him. It's probably just a matter of bad luck.
Wasn't it a couple weeks ago we were trying to question if a T1 could even pen a T69?
Oh, it can. No, I think we've known that it can.
Or was it the T32?
It was the IS-3 that I
couldn't
remember.
Oh, that's right. From the rear, we're seeing if it could penetrate.
It cannot penetrate from the rear. You actually have to go through the side and get it actually between a small space in the tracks and hit the lower body. It's the only way to do it.
Yeah.
You can do it with the 20 mil with gold rounds, the autoloader that most T1s bring so that they can kill other T1s. Unfortunately, the gun's not that effective against most T8s, but you can. And it's not going to do it consistently. You have to, one, get a high roll, the plus 10% max.
Can you imagine if a T1 ammo racked an IS-3?
That would be amazing, one. Two, I'm not sure if that spot on the armor is susceptible to that.
I don't think it would light up.
Yeah.
It has to be more towards the rear.
When I saw the T1 test against an IS-3, it was all of them went into the engine deck.
Yeah. Timeout was called from Bernal Empires. That was a minute. And now they have the 60 seconds where they can choose their tanks and get ready for map number 4.
Himmelsdorf.
Himmelsdorf will be the map.
Interesting. All right, so we're going to have a city map this time, which I think might favor Googly Bobbers, at least with the fact that they're favoring heavy tanks for this entire series, which is rather strange. We saw that Abbey, they brought a lot of heavies. This past one on mines was rather heavy for at least a mine strategy. And I'd expect, of course, the 5100 IS-3s for this, but I'm thinking they might be a little warmed up on those IS-3s and 5100s to the point where we could expect them to perhaps be more comfortable. You know what I'm saying?
Comfortable how so? Because of their prior engagements with other teams that are similar, or based on their own knowledge of how they would play?
Like, you know when you have to switch between tanks constantly? If you're just playing your pubbing or something, you go through tank and tank and tank, and you're trying to do your doubles, you feel like you're not doing as well because you can't get you can't get into the mindset of a certain tank. But because we've seen people like Enfield in an IS-3 almost every battle, we're going to continue to see him, and he's just going to continue to perform, and he's going to stay in that same mindset, play the same way.
That's what a specialist is.
Exactly.
Here we go. Battle number 4 on Himmelsdorf between Googly Bobbers and Bernal Empires. What do we have for tanks?
All right, for tanks, we have 2 AMX 5100s, 3 IS-3s, and a T1 Cunningham for the side of GoBob. And for the side of Bernal Empires, we have 2 5100s, 3 IS-3s, and 2 T1 Cunninghams. It does look like Spoon is stopped because it does appear as though Googly Bobbers may have had a No disconnect?
Nope, he's moving.
Okay, well, it's odd. They did
probably confirming their strategy here, or discussing as a team.
It's got to be a DC because a T1's not in the battle.
It is a disconnect. It is a disconnect. It has been called by our admin. No tanks have been spotted. Therefore, we exit the game.
Yep.
We have to wait until that person, well, they have to readjust if that person's not able to get back to the game. That's why they have people on standby. The roster is 10 people total. 7 people play in the match. And this is a time where if they have to make a substitution very quickly, time to do it. It's also dependent upon who disconnected because Bernal Empire's already called their timeout. They're only allowed 1 timeout.
But a disconnect is not a timeout.
But if a disconnect happens and they want to wait for that player, they have to call a timeout.
Oh, okay.
We'll have to see. If they're not ready to set them out of time.
Yeah, it does appear as though we're back in Garage. We'll get this started shortly once we figure out who. It must have been one of the T1s, which Crisis or Armor Ghost, is it, in the T1?
Well,
yes.
They're all back except Spoon.
Yeah.
So possibly was Spoon. Talk a little bit more about being a specialist in World of Tanks. It's a great strength, but your greatest strength can also be your greatest weakness, where you need someone else to play a lighter tank, a 1390, and you only play a 5100. But because of a substitution, perhaps, like this type of scenario, you have to change it up.
Fair enough.
Tough place to be in. However, there's so many advantages of a specialist that you can always count on, and you can also reprimand if they're not pulling their weight, if they're not doing their job, compared to someone stuck in a tank that they're not a specialist in. You know, it was a last minute change.
Well, there are a lot of players who used to be artillery players who were specialists in that, and they would only come in for that.
Relics.
Yeah, exactly. And they had to choose a different tank because of how it fell out of fashion. And now he does just fine. So while there are many players who specialize in a tank, most of them aren't exactly poor at another.
I think it's you can specialize in a tank or you can specialize in a role. That's the next step.
Yes.
You specialize in that role. Are you the sniper? Are you the brawler? Are you the flanker?
A scout.
Yeah. Are you a scout? Which Rookhill is one of the best scouts in the world.
I'm a little rusty now, but I was pretty good back in my day.
I'm sure John Madden said the same thing. One of the best football players in the world. Yeah, I'm a little rusty.
I mean, I tried to play pubs today. I couldn't clutch at a 1390.
Oh, man.
I tried really hard, but instead of just backing up when I got tracked and it repaired, I just kind of did this turnaround thing. I have no idea why I did it. Just bad habits forming out of nowhere. Just what happens when you don't play tanks quite as much as you used to. I used to put in, like full-time hours practicing, but now when I don't, I feel like it's like all these things that I used to be able to do, all these little maneuvers that I could do without a thought, have to be a little bit more conscious, You have to pay attention to what you're doing and think about what you're doing, but sometimes there comes a level of practice where you get away from having to consciously think about things because they just happen.
Yeah, that's moving away from thinking and feeling. Learning an instrument. I'm studying guitar along with all the things that I barely have time for, but you get to a point where I don't have to look at the tablature. I know what the next chord is.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with playing a game like World of Tanks. I know how to position my tank when I see an enemy this far away, how to angle my tank. I don't have to think about it and go, oh, how do I angle this properly? It becomes a natural instinct, and that's after hours and hours and days and days and days of practice.
Exactly.
That's what makes these professionals. It's what makes them specialists. Here we go, back in the game. Battle number 4, Burnell Empires versus Googly Bobbers. Let's check again with the tanks to remind our audience.
All right, so we've got that T1 back. It's going to be 2 5100s, 3 IS3s, and 2 T1 Cunninghams for Go Bob. Burnell Empires will have 2 5100s, 3 IS3s, and 2 T1 Cunninghams.
Burnell Empires is up 2-1. They'll be spawning to the north in the blue and the red in the bottom with the Googly Bobbers.
And it looks like Armor Ghost and Crisis will be heading to the hill in their T1s with perhaps Tuxzilla as an escort. And it's going to be a very interesting spread from the Googly Bobbers. Little hill play, but mostly in the middle. Spoon going to be watching the 8 line. Okay, normal spread. And it looks like Crisis and Armor Ghost one of them accidentally shot Tuxzilla for 12 damage.
T1s nipping at the heels. Zombie takes a hit.
Googly Bobbers are just silly people.
That was no accident for Zombie Food getting shot. That was coming out of either G-Force or Azrael.
Oh, right into the hull, too.
And Anfield gets hit for 474. That's an alpha strike for an IS-3.
Oh, right in the top of the turret. There's a weak spot on the top of the IS-3 turret, which is odd because you have the rest of everything, which is just so well armored, but that one little spot, that one thin slot of armor is very easy to pen if you can get a shell in there. And that's normally what you'll see when you see these hull down games with IS-3s. Another one. This one actually penning right on the gun mantlet. Luckily for whoever fired it, it hit perfect angle to go in.
Pet Gunner's having a bad day in that IS-3.
Dude, Enfield is having a bad day. He's got to be raging super hard right now. How are they making these shots count so much?
It's G-Forcer and Azrael that were able to put themselves on the fixed fire line down Delta, across Delta as they're looking down towards the Gulf line, and allowing Burnell Empire's tanks, Zone, Delta 94, Servios, and Static to push on the 2-3 line. And as they approach closer, they know one tank is spotted. Static's being extra careful as he approaches the corner. He will take point. Zone Delta will follow and cover in the AMX 5100. Nothing is seen, and they're able to cross safely.
Meanwhile, on the hill, it does appear as though Tuxzilla, Crisis, and Armor Ghost might make it into the backfield.
Zone Delta looking through this window of pain.
And they found SBM Hawk in the T1. Armor Ghost goes up and over, right into him.
Fires and gets it. Zombie Food is hit for 272 damage.
All right, and that could mean we have Googly Bobbers making their way into the backfield, where they could begin some cap pressure against their opponent, Burnell Empires, who are not anywhere near that.
Zone Delta backs away from the window, and him and Servios are going to now move together as they creep across towards the courtyard. Anfield is next. If they're able to spot him soon, this Double damage coming from these 5100s could knock him out fast, but so Sovereign Zool able to cover for one shot. Zombie Food and Anfield are together, and they focus on Zombie first. Servios is low. They get one. Can they get two before Servios falls? Anfield getting shot from the center as one of the Bernal Empire's tanks set up a beautiful two-pronged attack against those IS-3s, and Sovereign Zool is hurting.
That is a very well-executed blitz from Bernal Empires, understanding their opponent was low. They could send some 5100s in there, get him very, very easily. Not enough hit points to really hold out against two 5100s, and then on top of that, some tanks on the cap. And now Spoon is going in, trying to stop the cap. May be able to do it. At least delay it for a little while.
One shot away. Zone Delta falling back here. Still waiting for the reload, I believe. 4 seconds left. And he gets the reset. And there goes Sovereign Zool. Azrael, 90. Got it. He's at full health.
And Spoon is able to pick up Zigarman. One of the T1s is down. And that could actually mean there will be a delay for a little while. But with all 5 tier 8s versus just 2, Spoon and Tuxzilla are going to have an incredible time trying to bring this back.
Spoon is hit. And Azrael answers the call. Down the alley. Beautiful heads-up play coming from Bernal Empires.
Gosh.
G-Forcer. He goes down to Tuxzilla. Azrael now on the hunt. 16 seconds left.
Tux doesn't really have much he can do. He's just got to run away, maybe. Deny Bernal Empires some stats. Little damage here and there.
That's all he can try to do.
That's really it. Or farm some of his own before the cap goes up.
3 seconds left. Azrael spots him around the corner. 2, 1, and gets it. Armor Ghost last alive. Doesn't matter. Base is captured. Bernal Empires takes the series 3-1. That play in that southern tip by having the two 5100s focus on those IS-3s, and then down the line, the very south, they had one of their other tanks. I couldn't tell if it was an IS-3 or a 5100, but the shot almost came out of nowhere.
IS-3.
It was the IS-3.
Yep.
I was looking at the main engagement, and this beautiful shell out of nowhere streams across the screen, hits that tank for a significant amount of damage, and from there I knew it was over for those two IS-3s.
I think it was over before that engagement started. No, just watching it happen. Two 5100s, recognize how weak these guys are. They've taken so much damage just peeking out and over the middle. Let's send in two 5100s that are at full health. Yes, it will cost them a little bit, but on top of that, you send an IS-3 through the south at the same time. You've got multiple questions to be answered by Googly Bobbers who were not prepared for that. They were still playing around on the hill, on the 8 line. They still hadn't really figured out their opponent. Bernal Empires had all of the intel. They knew everything. They knew absolutely every position, and they figured it out very quickly, and they set the tempo. They dictated the match precisely, and that is what won them the battle.
Are you excited that Bernal Empires play this aggressively instead of playing for the draw?
Bernal Empires would never play for the draw. They're the kind of team that just goes at it. And that's why I really love watching their matches. They're a lot of fun, and they're very engaging in that way. You can see every single time what they were going for. It's very comprehensive. They recognize a weakness. They go to exploit it. And on top of that, because they're very talented, they went for another objective at the same time. So they were accomplishing multiple things at once, giving their opponent many questions to try and answer. How are you going to deal with this cap? How are you going to deal with these two 5100s? You aren't, because you do not have control. You're not dictating the pace. We are. And because of that, Bernal Empires is able to win.
Paraphrasing Lauren, one of the commentators for the EU League for Wargaming, said that it's the attackers, the aggressors, that even though they could play for the draw, they're the ones that bring it home. And they brought this victory home. Bernal Empires now solidifies their spot in second place. They have one more match next week in Week 7. Googly Bombers is in a really tough spot. However, they still have one more chance to get higher in their division. That does it for that series. Next up will be Refuse to Die versus Fnatic after this.